Hi, I'm John Bruscio from Arch Virtual, and in this video I'm going to be showing you a very sort of high-level overview of tips and techniques that you can use to build and create with Immerse Creator. There's a previous tutorial, if you haven't found it, it's in our YouTube channel where it goes through some of the basics of what each tool can do. In this video I'm going to focus just on kind of best practices that we've learned over the past few weeks and months of developing Immerse that may or may not help you get started. Everybody's going to build some in a little bit different way, but here's a couple of techniques that I've found to be pretty useful. So first thing, I'm actually in an online multiplayer sandbox right now. I'm going to go to my shapes, and I'd like to create a cube to begin with and just kind of get my bearings with that. I do a lot of teleportation, so that's the A button on the Oculus Rift touch controller or the big thumb pad on the Vive. So I'm just always pointing that at the floor and clicking. So I don't actually just make this preview every time. I'm just very quickly tapping that button to move around. I'm just pointing at where I want to go. If I want to go behind me, I go backwards, and I can teleport really quickly like that. Left joystick on the Oculus Touch is going to rotate me around, so I can actually get a better kind of perspective on things that way. Right the lower trigger, if you press and hold that, you're moving everything together in the container, so you can move things around. If you press and hold both of them and then move them apart, it scales everything in the container larger. Together it makes them smaller. So this is going to be a key for working with Immerse Creator that I'm using all the time is scale. It's a way to be able to get the best of all worlds, where you can work at a really small scale when you want to do broad stroke modeling, and then you can work at a very big scale if you want to do very detailed work. So that's a really key way to be able to work in here. And what I do is I like to take one of the assets, my favorite is this chair, and I just put that in the object and I scale it down. And that chair is always going to be my guide for scale when I'm working, so I know everything relative to that chair is about what I want to be creating to. So I'm just going to create kind of a base plane here, and I'll just sketch out like a little park pavilion. I've been on a park pavilion kick lately. I don't know why, but I just keep on creating like little park pavilions. Makes sense in VR, you know, we don't have to protect from the elements, so it's kind of a nice open air pavilion here. Duplication, I do a lot of duplicate, so as I'm creating, I'm not going to create a new cube every single object I make. I'm just going to go ahead and keep on duplicating these. And so we've got something like that. Let's say I want to make this kind of a side thing here. We've got a roof on either side, so it kind of has an opening in the middle. I'm also going to try not to, as best I can, move my head too much, because one of the things that you'll notice, anybody who's tried VR knows exactly what I'm talking about, but if you haven't, what you're seeing on a screen is absolutely nothing like what I'm feeling in virtual reality. They're two completely different experiences, and I know that, you know, watching someone else in VR can actually be kind of nausea-inducing. So I'm trying to keep my head very still, but just know that, you know, if you're in VR, you don't feel that way. Like, it feels completely different and natural for me in VR, but to be watching what someone else is doing is always a little bit disorienting. So I'm actually going to put those, I'm going to go back to small scale. Now again, you see that I keep going in scale. Depending on what I'm building, I'll change scale pretty quickly and often, because there's just always a different scale that works well. And then I'm also moving things around to just kind of get in here and take a closer look at what I'm doing. Maybe I'll scale it up. I'm just going to duplicate that so there's some structure to this pavilion. Duplicate these around. And this is really the key for working with Immerse Creator, is that you're not trying to replace 3D Studio or Maya. This is not, the idea here is not to try to you know, duplicate that kind of precision modeling. You know, that's always going to be better off in 3D Studio or Maya or Blender or Revit or SketchUp or whatever it is that you're using. But here, this is just about sketching, just being able to just very quickly and easily prototype an idea and then look at it at full scale. So I'm just kind of sketching this out at a miniature scale, and then I can immediately jump down into a smaller scale and take a closer look at it. So I'm just kind of modeling like a little base plinth around here. I don't know. Something like that. I'm just making these stairs kind of step out a little bit from the base. And then let's just go ahead and apply some materials. I'll go into my materials palette. I'm going to do a couple of different concrete for the base and maybe this brighter one for the top. And let's go with a darker concrete for that. And then let's do grass for the base. And then we'll do metal for these columns. Oops. Metal for these columns. So there we have it. Got a little pavilion here. Now if I want to see what this is like at full scale, I'm going to scale it up, but I'm not sure exactly what that chair scale should be because it's a freeform scaling. We're working on a new feature for the containers where you'll be able to change it to a precise scale. But for now you kind of have to eyeball it, and the way I verify this is I create a new container and I create another one of those chairs so that I can put them side by side. Now they're two different containers, two different chairs, but now I can go back to my first container and I can just put these side by side and scale it until I get it just about right to make sure that I'm still one-to-one scale. And that looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this other chair and I'll move this around here. It's facing here. Anytime you want, you can move the sun around, which is awesome. Crazy to do in VR because you immediately see how things change. And what's cool is working with landscaping in here is really, really fun. So I'm just going to go into my landscaping menu and just drop some trees in here and put those around here. Again, I'm using that lower trigger to move the whole container around so I can get into a little bit better position for placing these trees. And I'm not going to do so very carefully at this miniature scale, but I'm just going to quickly get them in, and then I'll work at full scale to kind of fine-tune the placement so I can kind of go to these and do a little bit more fine-tuning. Rotating, teleporting, moving around, changing scale. Those are really the main ideas that I'm trying to get across with this. So there we have it. We've got a little pavilion. Just took a few minutes to kind of sketch that out, but there we have it. If you ever want to save your creation after you're done, you just go to the Saver menu, type Save, and this one is Tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and save that online. And so if you want, you can load that back up, and here's all of the saves that were in this online save, and here's my offline saves. So I can go and let's just open another creation, the hall. Alright, so here I am at the hall, and you can load this same scene up on your end. And if you want to work with it, you could use it as a starting point, and you can modify it, and you can move things around and go ahead and edit the scene, destroy the scene, change the scene, start all over from scratch, whatever it is that you want to do. This is in your scene, and then you can save a copy of it as a different name with your changes to it. But let's actually go back to the center point, and then I'm going to load up that tutorial scene again. And rotate around, and here it is. So this will be in here in this sandbox if you ever want to load it up and take a look. And I think that's about it. Just wanted to give you some ideas of this kind of best practices or tips and techniques for working with Immerse Creator. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in Immerse.